everything to deal with events, service planning, that type of thing. Because with our chapters right now, we definitely have to make sure that when we're planning events, especially those that are around service, or we can even count fundraising in here too, right? We want to make sure that we have plans, actual like plans that you can visually see and implement, because without a plan, you probably will face a lot of struggles trying to like find people and find things to do and things of that nature. So that's why we're having this workshop to make it easier. So just because of time, I'm going to kind of speed through a little bit. If I go too fast, please let me know. But essentially, we're going to go through your event plan and how to structure it. Also talk about accountability. I'm going to save that one for last because I know that's a big hot topic for folks. Like, how do we get people to come to our events, and especially chapter members and all of that. So when it comes to event planning, it's simple, but it can get very complicated, right? So first of all, you got to have an idea of what you want to do. If you don't have that idea, your whole event can easily fall apart or not turn into the thing that you want it to be. Second, you need to know who is hosting the event. Are you doing this by yourself? And when I say by yourself, I mean as a chapter. You, as the individual planning any event, should not be doing that by yourself. You have people around you for a reason. And if you are finding that you may not have the right people around you or may not have people helping you, please reach out to either your district counselor, your sponsor, your director of band, and let's see how we can come up with a plan to help you out with that. Because again, you should not be planning anything or hosting anything by yourself. Also, there's other core information that you need before you execute your plan. So we're going to definitely go through all of that. And if you have any questions about anything, please write it in the chat or just unmute yourself. It's a small group here, so feel free to interrupt and if you have a question. So when you have an event, you definitely want to, again, you want to have that idea about what your event is, but you also want to have an event name. Now, you want a catchy name. You want a name that people are going to remember your events by. A lot of folks like to use "ta" in the event, like let's see, Turtle Talks, and let's see what else they have. Tall Beta Tuesday. There's just a lot of different ways to use it, but just make sure you're following our branding guidelines, because those do exist in the real world. So just make sure that your events are appropriate and are, they're catchy, but you're following the branding guidelines. Next up, you want an event description. These are something that can be brief, and you definitely want to make sure that when you do come up with the description of your event, it's not only brief, but it gets right to the point of what your event is about, and that you can even use this on your advertisements, on your flyers, that type of thing. So your description should cover what is your event even about, who is your event for, and how long is the event. I will say this, guys, y'all, when y'all have like plan your events and have the marketing for them, please make sure that you have the date and the time on the event. Sometimes some folks will have like really good flyers, but then you're questioning, well, when is it? Where is it? I need this information. Maybe I want to come, but if it's all the way out in Texas and I'm in Virginia, I can't get there tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to plan out to get to this stuff. So make sure that you have what your description's about, how long it's for, where it is, that type of thing, and what you'll be doing, what is required. Are you guys working out? Are you guys going, are y'all going to a professional event? Do you need to dress up? You need to have those details in your event description. Also, too, when you're planning your event, you need to know who your target audience is. Something that you're doing for the chapter is going to look a little bit different than what you do for your band program, and even more different than what you do for your college or university, or even things out in the community, K through 12. They're all going to look very, very different. Um, and you want to make sure that you have these considerations. So remember, like especially with DEIA, you have to consider these things. Okay. Also, companies or organizations involved, who is hosting or co-hosting, sponsoring this event? Are you doing this with our with Kappa Kappa Psi? Are you doing this with another music organization on your campus? Who are you doing these events for? Okay, you want to make sure that you're thinking. You have to think about this, because if you don't think about your target audience, sometimes you may host an event and that event may not be the best thought out and may end up offending somebody, or may what you're talking about, it may not, you may need a little bit more planning and thought into it. So for instance, if you're doing something and there's no elevator access, you have to think about accessibility at that point. So again, it goes back to that DEIA, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we want to make sure that we know who our audience is. Next up is a venue. Perfect segue. So when you're looking at your venue for your events, and this again, this goes for fundraisers, this goes for any service events, that's that type of thing. Always consider the type of venue, because you may not always have access to your band room, and you may actually have to reserve your band room. So please, if you don't know, just ask somebody on campus about how do you need to reserve a room? What do you need? Is there a system that you have to fill out, a form you have to fill out, a person you have to talk to? Always consider that when you're planning your events. Also too, if your event is off campus, if your event is, again, may not have elevator access, that type of thing, goes back to your target audience. Do people need this? You have to, again, be very, very mindful. Excuse me. Does the venue cost money? Yes, I said money. Does it cost money? How much is it? Is there a venue fee? Does your school charge you a fee for hosting events? Is there do you have to pay extra for accommodations? You have to consider all of that when you're planning this event, because guess what? That cost is going to fall back on you if you don't plan accordingly. And also too, if it's even with a lot of places, especially off campus, they'll make you sign contracts. Don't sign anything until you talk to your president, your sponsor, and your band director first. Please don't sign anything without that consideration, because you don't want to be stuck into something and it ends up hurting you yourself or the chapter in the long run. Venue policies. Again, you don't know, you cannot assume, and you don't know what the policies are until you ask. So please ask it what the policies are. Is there a maximum capacity? And when you think about maximum capacity, sometimes they'll say standing room, and sometimes they'll have a maximum capacity for sitting with chairs and tables. You have to ask about all of those things, because if you don't want the fire marshal called on you. That's not fun. So that part. Insurance requirements. Does the venue need you to have insurance in order to book? I know that sounds like, what do you mean? Yeah, some people are asking for that because, again, liability. So if that is the case, again, make sure you are communicating with your president, your sponsor, and your band director about all of these things. We already talked about contracts and agreements. Again, be very careful of signing contracts on your own. I honestly will encourage you not to sign anything until you discuss it with your chapter and y'all come to the agreement. And then also too, with anything, even if it's on your campus, always assume that, especially if you have an open event, that people are going to have to come off campus to get to your event. Or maybe you have some commuter students, or you just never know. Parking is going to be huge. I know if you're like me, you're going to always want to ask, where is parking? How much is parking? Is parking free? You want to ask all these things prior to doing anything, because guess what? If you have trouble with this, you might not have as many attendees to your event as you would like. Again, going back to more details of your event plan. Marketing. Who is going to be marketing this thing? Is it going to be from word of mouth? Are you going to use social media? Are you going to print out flyers? Are you going to use your bulletin board? Are you going to be able to ask at the beginning or the end of your band practices and rehearsals? Who is going to be marketing this thing? Because guess what? If you don't market your events, you're not going to be able to have people attend because they won't know about it. So never assume that people know. Always talk about it. Always encourage others to bring their friends. Again, talk to your band director and sponsor prior to, and we'll get to this a little bit later, prior to your events, so that they are aware, so that they can give you the space and time to actually not only talk about the event, but even host the event. Materials. Does your event require materials? I know with some service events, like, you're going to need a little bit of extra things. You might need safety pins. You might need needle and thread. You might need plastic bags. Oh goodness, y'all forgive me. I was not a brass instrumentalist. I was woodwind all day, flute and piccolo. So valve oil, that's what it is. You might need that. You might need any other cleaning supplies for your instruments if you're doing like an instrument cleanup or things of that nature. That costs money, unless your band got it like that. Hey, I know some bands that do. Look, but again, you want to make sure that you have all the materials that you need, and then that you can put those costs of those materials into a budget. When you have an event, especially if they have materials and you're passing out things, always put a number beside that, because don't ever assume anything is ever going to stay free if it's free for you right now. Because guess what? Things can definitely change in a heartbeat. So make sure that you're budgeting accordingly, and then you're reflecting if you are getting materials donated and things of that nature, and then reflect that. But you always want to make sure you're budgeting for things anyway. The next thing, team. Who is helping you? Like I've mentioned before, you should not be doing any event by yourself. If you have a chapter of 10 people, at least 5 of those people should be helping you. Because guess what? I'm being very realistic here. Not everybody can attend every event. But guess what? There are ways to make sure that you get the right team behind you, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But just make sure that as you are putting together your event plan, you're also thinking about who can help you. And sometimes it's not always your friend in the chapter. It might be somebody that you might not be friends with, but they might have a skill set that's needed to execute the event. So I know that can get a little dicey sometimes because of interpersonal relationships. But guess what? At the end of the day, you have to put your professional hat on and say, I have to work with you. We have to work with each other. We have to put our personal feelings aside right now so we can get the job done. So that's how you kind of cannot navigate that, unless it's a bigger issue, and that's a whole different conversation, right? Have your agenda. Your agenda should be from setup to cleanup, okay? If your event starts at 7:46, your setup time shouldn't be 7:46, right? Your setup time should be 7, maybe 6, depending on the event. So again, to give yourself some time to set up and prepare and to actually relax before the event starts, because depending on what you're doing, what service you're providing, that is going to be a lot. And I don't know about y'all, but I've been there where you're like, especially if you're the one coordinating everything, it can get a little hectic. People asking you questions, people pulling you right here, left and right. You want that, again, going back to that team, you want a team behind you that can take some of that stress off, because I know how stressful this can get. Feedback. So with your events, you definitely want to make sure you incorporate some type of feedback, so that like, it could be a QR code, it could be a survey you send out after the event. This is a good way to gauge like how the event went, what you can improve on, and what worked. So that maybe like the event that you hosted, it worked really well. There might have been one little thing, but everything else was fine. Guess what? You document that in your event plan and you save that. Save the whole thing so that future members of your chapter actually know what worked, okay, and under what circumstances. And also, this is just a little extra tidbit. If you want to give your attendees like gifts or swag bags or like takeaways, definitely again add that to your budget. But definitely think about what that looks like. If you have a women in music speaker come and speak to you, and y'all have and I'm just throwing something out of a hat. Y'all have many cards made, thanking everybody for attending, and then you also give a gift to the speaker. I don't know. That's a good way to not only make your events memorable, because always put your chapter name and Tau Beta Sigma on there, because you want to make sure that the people that attend know who hosted the event and what event it was. So that's a kind of like a nugget there. You definitely want to have something that's memorable, but again, put that into your budget, because sometimes it might be it's a nice to have, it's not needed. So definitely gauge on that. All right. And I am trying to, we're good on time still. Okay. So accountability. So I kind of want to open the floor real quick to ask you guys, when it comes to accountability and people like chapter members, in particular, attending events, what is it that you guys have seen in your chapters? What have been your experiences? Anybody want to share?
I can speak up and say that, like, one of the reasons I've had a hard time getting people to participate in events is the real reason isn't shared. It's like they're kind of on board, and then you get to the actual event, and you're like, "Hey, where is everybody?" And they're like, "Oh, I had this. Sorry, I didn't tell you," or something. And so it's like, wait a minute, the real issue is like a desire to do these events. So like, I mean, it comes back to what you're talking about at the beginning, like knowing your audience, like having a conversation as an us, as a chapter, and being like, hey, what do we want to do for real?
Okay. Look, that is definitely something that happens a lot. Thank you for sharing, Noah. Um, that is definitely something that happens a lot, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Does anybody else want to share? If not, we can keep going. Um, so again, when it comes to accountability, the first thing that you have to do, again, make sure that your event plan has been established. We already went through that in the beginning of these slides. The second thing, the next step that I want everybody that is on this call to know is that you got to set clear expectations at the beginning of the semester. And when I say the beginning of the semester, I'm talking about like now. For those that have band camp, for those that are starting your semesters early, you have to set those expectations now. And what that looks like is going to be different for every chapter, because guess what? Every chapter's band commitments are going to look different. School commitments and obligations are going to look a little bit different. But you want to establish clear, and also when I say clear expectations, y'all, just make sure when you're sharing your expectations that it's not you have to attend 100 events in order to be, in order to be considered active. Like that is don't do that. Don't do that at all. What I mean is that you want to say, hey, here are the events that I would like to do this semester. Let's say you're the VPSP. Here are the events I want to do this semester. who can attend these events, and you want to put on your event plan or that schedule that you send out, you want to put the number of people that you need on your team. So if one event maybe needs 3 people to run it, put that. If it needs 20 people to run it, put that. But what you don't want to do is send this out a day or even a week prior to the actual event date. You don't ever want to do that. Please don't. And it's because I know school can get busy. I know band can get busy. And guess what? When things get busy, we tend to think about what is happening for me and what works for me. And that's just a real, very real perspective there. So we want to make sure that when we are setting these expectations and setting these schedules, that we're sending this out at the beginning of the semester. So like I said, if you can start planning it now and your first chapter meeting is August 31st, I'm just throwing the date out there, then you want to make sure that you have at least something put out so that you can present it to the chapter and you can ask those questions. But if, let's say that you need to do an event for band camp, and let's say that, you need to do the event tomorrow. Don't be so upset that people are going to not want to be able to do stuff because maybe they're not in marching band or whatever. Like, that's too last minute. But again, when you set clear expectations, you have this conversation with your with the members of your chapter's councils and stuff, and you want to make sure that when you're having these discussions, everybody is on the same page, because you can't expect people to attend 10 events and everybody else is like, 5. Can we do 5? Like, again, we want to make sure that we're able to collaborate with one another and compromise. But you want to make sure that, again, you're communicating, when you do communicate, you already have your event plan, so you just send those out. And you also put how many people that are needed. If you can split things up, so maybe some folks can come to set up, but they got to leave in the middle and they could come back to clean up. You can split it like that. Or if you have some folks that are really good with crafting and you do crafting events, they can be put on crafting and may not. But if you do something like, I don't know, uniforms, they're like, well, I can craft, but someone is not my ministry. Then you can say, hey, okay, well, we don't have to put you on uniforms. You can do the crafting events and things of that nature. So you have to kind of see who in your chapter is good at what and kind of navigate that in that way. Now, if you have a very small chapter, I came from a chapter of 5.5 people. I know some folks giggle when I say that, but when you come from a very small chapter, and everybody's not pulling their weight, you learn how to accommodate. So what we ended up doing was we all took a different role in our specialty areas, and when we started doing that, we were able to do events like it went so smooth. We found the system that worked for us. But again, if you have a chapter where you have 20 people, again, try to ask everybody, what are you good at? What is your availability? And you ask all of this before the semester starts and each and every month. Because again, knowing that availability is going to really help you in the beginning, but no one can use the excuse that they didn't know, because guess what? It was already sent out. But remember, you have to give constant reminders, because again, people, especially when a semester starts, they'll get into that what is happening in my life? Can this fit in my life right now? So you have to be mindful of that by giving reminders, and also saying, hey, I need one more person for X, Y, and Z, and just asking. Whew. I know I said a lot right there. Are there any questions about that part? Hearing none. So we'll continue. So also, when it comes to, again, all the events that we plan, we want to make sure that we are monitoring our calendars for meetings, band rehearsals, games, and other events. This is a great way to talk to your band director and sponsor about what events you want to do and what service things you want to do. prior to the semester starting, in every month, if that's how often you meet with them. If you don't meet with them monthly, I highly encourage you to do that. That's how you build rapport. Because when you start building rapport with your band director and sponsor, if there are two different people, or if even if they're the same person, guess what? They'll be more likely to help you when you are, well, like, let's say you'd want to do a service event, but you might have rehearsal that same day. If you have built enough rapport, and trust me, this is from experience, they'll, some band directors, if there is like maybe a I don't want to say an easy week, but a light week, they'll may be able to, let practice leave a little 30 minutes early so that you can do your event then. But you won't know that until, again, you ask, or you build enough rapport and give your band director and sponsor your schedules like prior, and remind them, because our band directors and sponsors can get, sometimes they're like, you told me that, and you point to the calendar that's printed in their office that's sitting right in their face. Sometimes it has to work like that, but you have to be a lot more diligent with this, because again, everybody's in the what's going to work for me right now mode. So we have to make sure that we are sending those reminders. We are giving the opportunity for your band director to say, change this event to another date because we have a performance that day, or change this event to, or don't do this type of event because our band council might be doing something similar, or don't do the event. See if y'all can do something jointly together, because I know some bands do have band councils, and they work and do their own type of events too. So again, you want to make sure that you are communicating with who you need to communicate with in order to be able to execute your events. And then lastly, diversify the type of events and service that you do. Ask people in the chapter, what are they interested in? You gauge that in the beginning of the semester, but you can have these conversations throughout the year. What do they want to do? What are they interested in? If you already have ideas, again, plan them out so people can see it. Because sometimes what will happen is you might have a great idea, but if people can't visualize it, or can't see it, or never experienced it before, they're not going to understand. So you want to make sure that you're presenting something, but then opening the floor to other ideas. And when I say open the floor, y'all, don't open the floor and not even take in the ideas. Does that make sense? You want to make sure that when you are talking about the different ideas people have, that you're still able to incorporate them if you can. If you can't, maybe that's something that y'all could do in the next semester or in the next year. But again, encourage yourself and everybody else to make an event plan so that we can see what you're trying to do, and we can get different types of events out there. And I'm gonna stop sharing real quick so I can share something else. But everybody's familiar with the Chapter Operations Guidebook, right?
You said the affirmation guidebook?
No, the Chapter Operations Guidebook.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say, what's the affirmations guidebook? That's new. Okay, great. So if you are not, where is my screen? Okay, there we go. This, see, I already had this open. This right here is going to be updated. Don't worry about that. But this right here is going to be your best friend if it's not your best friend already. So as you can see here, there's a whole section for Vice President for Service and Special Projects. But under this section, and we are going to scroll down to that. But as we scroll down, y'all see it has everything about almost every role in this organization that y'all gotta that y'all should be paying attention to. But in this section here, if you are a VPS or a VPSP, this tells you everything you need to know about your role. And then also, it talks about our national programs. It talks about, just different little tidbits here, key areas of responsibility, all the things. But that's not what I really want to show y'all. That's important, but that's not what I want to show y'all. All right. So if you continue scrolling down, just continue scrolling down. First, you'll see an event planning worksheet. This is a great way, again, to know what you're planning, what you're talking about. This helps you, and the rest of your chapter in the long run. I promise you, because it's so easy to go into your chapters, TB Sigma Google Drive, the TB Sigma one now, and just find all of your event plans from previous years. It makes it so much easier, y'all. But what I want to show you is this. So if you guys ever run out of ideas, and I know we are creatives all up and through here. So if you ever run out of ideas, this has almost everything you could think of that you can do. Just make sure that it's in compliance with your university or college, because I know every school got different rules. That's what I like to tell folks, but it's true. So make sure that, you know, this can be applied to your school, but it has everything that you need, from service events, different projects you can do for your band programs. It's this guidebook is going to have everything that you will need to be successful in your role. As you can see here, you got maintenance of your band program, some programming ideas for your band, community outreach, and there's also one if your chapter is somebody that also has to work on fundraisers. I'm going to pull that up real quick. Here are some examples of fundraisers that your band can do. Again, make sure that it's in compliance with your university, because again, every school has different rules, and I want to make sure that, you know, y'all aren't violating anything on your actual campus. But everything here is examples that other chapters have done and was able to raise money for. So also, but when it comes to fundraisers, if you are in charge of those type of events, just remember that fundraising, you always have to have a purpose. You always have to tie it to something. You can't just be fundraising just to fundraise. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization. You got to have a purpose for why you're raising money. But I wanted to show you guys that, because that again is something that is going to be very, very helpful for y'all in the long run, and it's going to make a lot of things easier, especially when it gets updated. Try to make sure I'm good on time. Okay. So to kind of wrap everything up, a good takeaway from this, if you didn't listen to anything else I said, is that you brainstorm what events you want to do for each semester. Ask your chapter members and even band members what events they would like to have, because that's the other thing too. If y'all not asking your target audience what they want to do, and you hosting the same type of events and nobody's showing up, that's a key thing to keep in mind, that maybe we got to try something different. Maybe we do have to ask our band members, what would you like to see? And how you ask people, it could be word of mouth. You could post something on your social media and take a poll. You can give suggestions of what people may want to see and see if they choose that. If they don't choose that, have them make their own suggestions of what type of events y'all can host for the band. Again, when you're brainstorming and actually planning out the events, you want to make sure that you have a plan, a visual plan. If you don't have a plan, I'm sorry, your events are more than likely not going to be as successful as you would like them to be. So we want to make sure that we got a catchy event name and description. We got a budget and venue, and marketing and event schedule. And just remember too, that especially when it comes to that venue, your band room may not always be available. And some schools, I've worked with chapters that have said this as well, that they thought they could be in the band room. The band director said it was fine, but the school listed the band room as a room that you could reserve. And somebody was in the band room, and they kind of, had to find somewhere else. Well, not the person that reserved it, but the chapter, because they couldn't do anything about that, because university rules said that you had to reserve the room. If you don't reserve the room, anybody can reserve it. So be mindful of that. Remember to communicate the dates in your calendar of your events with your chapter, sponsor, and band director at least 3 weeks to a month in advance. Again, you're at the beginning of your semesters right now. And I say beginning of your semesters because even though your school might not have started, I know for some of you that band camp has started for you. So make sure that you are planning out what you want to do now, so that when you do have your first chapter meeting and school does roll around, that you already have a plan in action. You already have a calendar. But just remember to submit it to the chapter, your sponsor, and band director, and get that availability now, so that nobody can ever say, oh, well, you didn't tell me. Well, you got to check the calendar, but also send out those reminders. The Google Calendar invites are a great way to keep everybody in check. If there's another platform that your chapter uses for communication about your events and things of that nature, definitely utilize the calendar feature in that to send out reminders, because that's the other thing too. You're only one person. If you got a chapter full of 50 people and you got to send out 50 text messages all the time, sometimes that ain't fun. So try to learn how to automate and utilize different platform calendars to your advantage. And then also, last thing, I'm going to say this again, save all of your event plans in your chapter's Google Drive. Again, preferably your TB Sigma Google Drive, so that, again, future chapters can have access to it. Because if you save it in your Google Drive, guess what? Once you graduate, I'm pretty sure you're not about to open your school's Google Drive anymore, unless you're doing a graduate degree. But, you want to make sure that you are planning success for the future right now. So you do that by, again, saving your event plans, and making sure that you're documenting if it worked, if it didn't, and what could you improve. Now, I saved a little bit of time. We have about 15 minutes. Does anybody have any questions about anything? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Oh, you got something in the chat? Oh. Y'all a quiet bunch right now. I know it's Saturday, y'all. I appreciate y'all for being here. Y'all don't understand. I definitely appreciate y'all for being here. I know I got y'all on the Saturday, but this is all good information to learn. But yeah. So if there are no questions, please feel free to reach out if you need anything from me. My email is mmonk@tbsigma.org. And yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know. And yeah.